But we have to make sure we have enough for all of us too. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I was just wondering.
So over the agenda for the regular meeting first, we have the indication announcement. Those are the flag and ceremonial matters.
Chocolate chip peanut.
Chocolate chip. Take it to my Michelle Bell.
We have the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any questions or objections as to the minutes? We have no invited guests. We'll have a report on the DBA art commission and possibly Mr. Smith. New business, we have the design, consideration action on design plan for improvements to the town green. Councilman Howard?
Yeah, we've, as Butch lined out in the item agenda, the summary, we had a meeting this past Wednesday with 3 groups. He's researched the Piper O'Brien information, and as you can see from Butch's explanation on the summary, basically there's never any topography work done, never any real detail work done in that area. So our meeting was with 3 groups, and as a result of that meeting with our interim planning director Jason Thompson, Stat Chair Don Britt, Economic Development Manager Eric Van Otteren, of course Butch and myself, we looked at 3 different proposals for looking at how to make some very good improvements to the drain. And after those meetings, we felt that route design brought to the city exactly what we were looking for to make that an area that we can improve on and still use the functionality and not really, as I kind of alluded to, it's a great, wonderful used car that needs a fresh coat of paint, some tires and wheels, and we can rock and roll with it. So we're going to like to move forward with that with the maximum financial impact of $74.80, and the scope is outlined in Melissa's information she gave us tonight. So I just think it's going to make the town green just that much more attractive and that much more functional and that much more of a pleasure when people are here. So, do I have any questions for me?
I'm all for moving forward with town green. I think this is something that I've been pushing for a long time. But I did speak with Ms. Burke today, and no one inquired of her as to what the $11,000 was spent to Piper O'Brien. No one pulled those invoices to see what we paid Piper O'Brien for back in 2011. So I have asked if those invoices get paid. I also reached out to Piper O'Brien, our project manager with them, and no one has contacted Piper O'Brien to see what work they actually did.
Well, Butch has done that. That's in his summary right here.
I'm telling you, I spoke to them today, and they said no one reached out to them. So I've asked if they could.
I'm confident that Butch has done what he needs to do for us to move this forward, so I'm looking to move it forward.
I've asked for a report from Piper O'Brien to see what was done in 2011. I still don't think, until we have that we need to move forward at this point in time.
Well, I appreciate your sentiment, but I tend to disagree because I think we have all we need.
That's why we have a vote, right? You get to have your say and I get to have mine, so thank you for allowing me my opinion. Moving on, Mayor's nomination and Council's confirmation of appointment of Cassie Martis to the Snellville Arts Commission. Any questions? We then have consideration action approval of Eastside using the stage. Any questions about that?
We have all the details of what?
And then we have the bid for Dorian Cove Stormwater Project. Anyone want to tell us about that?
This was a project that came about and due to the size and what was going on in the area, we asked Clark Patterson to come in, look it over, and they ended up having to do engineering work, and so we have put that out to bid, and the 3 bids that we got on it are in the summary And the lowest, of course, as you can see, is the 32. It was a big, major difference, so we even called to make sure that they had included all the bells and whistles, and they say that they can do it for the price that they did, so we feel confident. They're a good group. We've worked with them in years past. It's the Dickerson group, so.
Yeah, they've done a number of the stormwater projects, if I'm not mistaken.
And a number of these for Oklahoma County as well.
Right, yeah.
Cut off the wall.
Yeah, they seem to do, they did a couple of roads, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember where they were in court.
Off of South Rescue,
Emerson Lake.
Emerson Lake
Okay,
Drive,
okay, got it.
first, right after the curve.
I just
And this,
got a blank.
yeah, the only way in and out right there where that road crossing is.
Thank you.
That brings us then to our work session agenda. We have, first thing is title issues to the owned property. I believe staff is ready to go forward on that tonight, so I'll ask that be placed on our next work session. Next, we have the request by Andrew Thomas from South Gwinnett about the senior project. I did have the opportunity last week to meet with Andrew. This was an idea a couple of them had for the senior project. They had, South Gwinnett typically doesn't do a senior project. Other high schools, I'm sure y'all are familiar, usually a senior project is a lasting impression that the senior class leaves. I know at Tucker they've done like a bench, a picnic table, and things like that. So my conversation with Andrew was, what were they looking to do? Did they want to volunteer as an event? Did they want to do something like cleaning somewhere up? Did they want to build something by themselves, build something in conjunction with another group? What were they looking to do? Did they have any money to spend, or were they just donating labor? And they didn't know any of that. So he agreed that they needed to go back and as a group talk about it. He also agreed that they only have a few weeks left of school, and they haven't gotten that great response from the actual seniors, just the student body itself. I did follow up with him today. He has not had that meeting yet with the rest of them, so I don't know at this point if we want to spend time trying to come up with a project, or if we want to wait to hear back from the senior class.
So we hear back from them, and who's gonna do it?
C, update on opportunity zone application. I think at the last work session I had asked for those documents. I haven't seen those yet. For the date we left, actually submitted our opportunity zone. I know we received an email saying it was several months in advance, but we have those actual dates.
Yeah, we got an email from Jonathan Gilbert, who actually put that application together. Not which had forwarded it out to you, but that application was submitted on June 28th, which is in plenty of time to have had DCA consider under their previous rules.
I'm sorry, June
It's all in
28th,
their lap.
Are we in 2013?
This is 2013, yeah. The kind of one deadline we had heard it needed to be submitted by June 30 of last year to be under the wire, but I don't know that that was really a relevant deadline. But the reality is the 90 days they have came and went, and then a couple of weeks later, a month later, they responded to a letter with us that said they would get back with us, and they have continued that position since then. They were, the last we heard, waiting for the legislative session to send, because they thought the legislative session might mess with it a little bit. It did not, but we still haven't heard anything.
Anybody have any questions? Potential revenue, 3% rental vehicle excess tax. Mr. Wicks?
Yes, well, actually, there are two things I want to talk to on this item, but the first is this is a 3% rental tax that's paid by people who rent automobiles or trucks within the city limits. Right now, we're kind of an island. All of Gwinnett County does it. All the cities do it. We have never instituted that. So I'm asking the council that they could consider having Mr. Powell, if no one objects seriously, to draw paper so we can put that in for our city too. All that money would have to be spent towards marketing or advertising for the city. There's a specific way that money has to be spent, so it wouldn't be going into general ledger. It would go into through something for the city to use for advertising, which could possibly help us with these monuments.
Before that's drawn up, can we get some, do we have any idea?
Income?
Yeah.
Yeah, approximately $80,000 to $90,000.
Do we know?
And the nice thing about it
How
is
many
you pay for
companies do
people
we
that, pay for people that are renting in your city, not necessarily your residents.
Right. So we would have Enterprise.
Enterprise,
Budget, there's
Project.
Triangle,
U-Haul.
U-Haul, Lowe's, Home Depot.
They
both
rent,
they all rent
yeah,
trucks.
yeah, they would, I guess
They
they would,
rent
they would
vehicles.
down.
They rent vehicles.
Yeah.
And what about, and what are the requirements to spend it on?
I wish Butch could explain, he did explain
I
it
can
to me,
tell
but, okay, there you go.
Promoting industry, trade, commerce, and tourism. That's one category. Capital outlay projects consisting of construction of convention, trade, sports, and recreational facilities, public safety facilities, including acquiring, constructing, renovating, and improving.
Smile out of cheese.
Equipping of parking facilities, pedestrian walkways, plazas, connections, and other public improvements associated with such convention, trade, sports, and recreational facilities or public safety facility, or the retirement of debt issued with respect to such capital outlay projects, and maintenance and operational expenses or security and public safety expenses associated with section 2, which is.
Do we have to say why we're using it when we advertise it, or once we collect it, we can use it for any of those purposes?
You put that in the ordinance, so,
Is that for us, we should-
yeah, where it has to be, but you just adopt that. Now you can.
But so we don't have to limit ourselves to one of those categories.
You don't. You just put, I'd recommend putting them all in, so that you can have options later on with your spending. And you can use them for, contracts with, same subject matter, but you can do municipal contracts. You can use this money to contract with the DDA to do a parking facility, that kind of thing. You can pass it through to other government. It's a joint venture with the county or CIDs or urban redevelopment.
And along that line, this 3%, I have another proposal. As most of you are aware, the DDA just passed, they're spending $27,000 or $28,000 to have a company do the signs, design and give us specifications on signs. The signs are going to run everywhere, from the monuments that we want in the city, all the way down to weight-bearing signs throughout all the commercial district. And there's a way, that all that does is get us the blueprint, that doesn't get us the signs. That's going to be quite expensive. I have a proposal that we allow the DDA to tax 1/10 of 1 mil to the commercial properties within the DDA area, which will specifically go to being spent in that DDA area, and specifically in the beginning for those signs. That's one way I think we can get our signs built. We've reduced commercial taxes 1 mil over the last 3 years. It works out to a penny per dollar on taxable value. So I just think it's a good way for us to get that funded. I don't think it's going to hurt any of the commercial businesses, and it'll also show commercial businesses that the DDA is actually working. If we don't have any major objection to that, I'd also like to ask Mr. Powell to do whatever is necessary so we can put that, realize that's been done with us or the DDA, and have that on our next.
So the short of it is, we tax them, then we give it right back to them in a different form.
Correct. In other words, we're going to use it, yes,
it
it's
from
kind of like
them
the
and put it back
CID
in
does,
again.
different uses, but the CID does with the 3 mils they charge. This is 1/10 of 1 mil, and it'll all go back for those signs. Now, after the signs are done, after the signs are built, that we can use that money to be used for facade grants.
Okay.
DDA can use it for facade grants, or use it for other things to improve the DDA's area of the city.
Okay,
So it goes back to
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. It has to be.
so
sent
just to
in
be
there.
clear on the signage, the wayfinding signs and things like
Yes,
that,
sir.
you want to use that piece of the pie for that. Is that for the signage for the city, or just the signs that will be used in the DDA?
Well, basically, 3 of the 4 monument signs would be in the DDA.
Okay.
So, one sign would not be in the DDA, so I guess we wouldn't be able to buy, to that monument.
Well,
out of these funds. But
again, I just
the
want,
other- yes,
the
it has to be
DDA,
in
we
that
want,
area.
we want to support the DDA area with
Correct.
DDA money.
That's it.
I
Exactly
don't want
right.
to have, yeah, right.
Right.
I wouldn't want to
No.
say we're going to use part of it over here
No.
and,
No, we
Yeah,
could, that, you
partly
know, let's come up
what
with
we
another way for the fourth monument.
Right.
Three
Now,
monuments.
How much 1/10 of 1 mil would it raise annually?
Yeah, about $180,000.
Right here, 2 cents.
4 cents a dollar.
So.
Okay. Mr. Manuel, pet waste ordinance.
I've had some input from some residents. There's apparently areas of the city where people walk their dogs, and apparently it's difficult to walk down the sidewalk without stepping on landmines. So this ordinance, if nobody has an objection to it, would essentially require people to pick up after their pets on public property and on private property that they don't own.
And so it would become a crime if they don't pick up after their pets?
I don't know if it'd be a crime. It would be something where they could be in the same vein as if you don't mow your lawn. It would be a quality of life issue.
Yeah, so we'd have to actually catch them in the act of not picking up after the pets are out. I'm just wondering logistically, how are we gonna enforce it?
I think
What
it's, yeah,
weight
you're
is
not
it
gonna
gonna
have Dick Tracy going around, but I think if you have an ordinance that you can let people know, there would have to be a complaint filed. And I think we need something to just tell people you need to clean up after your pet.
I think simply put, you can run stop signs all day long. It's a crime that you didn't get caught, so you're not gonna get a ticket unless an officer sees you. And then you're gonna get the ticket. And so in this instance, the simplicity of it is, we can't enforce it until the ordinance is out there. And then if somebody sees it, other than a police officer, then they have to be willing to call a code enforcement or the police department to make the charge, but they also have to go to court. They're the ones. It's your,
I understand that. My concern is this really what we want our police department and our courts to be focusing on, is somebody not picking up dog poop?
Well, there's a number of citizens who think we do. I'm just bringing it up for discussion. Since I'm the trash guy, I get a vote for that.
well, I think it does, we set a precedent. It's not like we're going to send,
Yeah, you're not gonna
the
have.
focus of our department's not going to be
Yeah.
people on the dogs.
Well, but
leashes.
it gives the chief an option for officers that are maybe not towing mark. Since you can put them on dog food patrol. I just think it makes
It
a
would allow us to
statement.
be able to put up some signs
Yeah.
Right.
or something.
It's
There's
just,
some-
it's an awareness thing, I think, more than anything. It's,
just let them think about it. They don't know whether the neighbor's looking out the door watching them.
But I wonder if the same thing could be accomplished with just a little courtesy educational process, rather than having to pass a law.
Brian, your chore is.
Educate people on common courtesy.
One municipality, is there any other municipality we know that have that ordinance? We know, do you know that?
I don't know.
Only Lawrenceville have it?
Tony, would it hurt to have it? Just on the
It
books?
doesn't hurt. It's common ordinance. I don't know if Lawrenceville has it or not.
I know there's.
What's that?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we find out what other
What other
municipalities
cities are
in
doing.
Lake County do?
There may be a better
Let's do
mousetrap
that,
than we got.
yes,
Yeah.
let's do that. And if nothing else, we'll see what their ordinance is, we can probably read it. Not too good.
Could I go back to one thing before, Tom shifted gears off excise tax pretty quick, but the excise tax, the way that law is written, it looks to me like once county imposes that excise tax, which they have, they're gonna collect it in your city too. It's not like SDS issues. This one is jurisdictionally countywide, not separated by municipality. So when you don't really increase your citizens' taxes, you just shift the 3% from county coffer to your coffer.
Even more reason
I
to do
mean,
it.
it isn't.
They're being collected already, it's just not being deposited in our
That's
account.
right.
This is on the rental card?
Right.
And so does the county know that we are looking at this?
Who cares? Do they have to know?
Well, it's a common courtesy to tell them we're about to take $200,000 out of their
We
budget.
don't even.
No, that's
No,
only
it's
80,000.
I thought you said 180, I'm sorry.
That's 180,000 is the 1/10 of 1 mil.
That's the DDA thing, the rental cars.
I think, we need to let them know, we haven't adopted it yet, all we did was talk about it.
So that 3% is already being collected, is that what you're saying?
I don't know if the county is collecting it within the city or not. It's just the way that the excise tax law is written. It's the jurisdictional. It defines the jurisdiction as the county or the municipality.
It's kind of like last year, what was the energy?
It doesn't
Something the energy
separate.
did, if we didn't collect it, it was still going to be collected, the county's going to get it routed from us, so we passed it. Same thing.
Can we find out if that's already being collected?
I'll be glad if you contact somebody about it.
That would make that an easier decision.
Yeah.
Trash service?
This is again from some citizen
Oh.
input.
Wait a minute, have we shifted gears again? Can we get back to pet waste in a minute? We keep,
Let's get back to the dog.
let's get one topic done at a time here. On the pet waste, can we charge somebody with getting some information on that for the other cities?
I thought Tony was gonna do that.
Well, for the ordinance, what I'd also like to know is for the other cities that have it, just, are they doing anything for enforcement? What do they do for penalty? Does it really go to the courts? How many cases actually come to court?
Well, I don't know how you feel, Ms. Bender, but I think the person who brings that forward should do that research.
It's good for me, as long as it doesn't fall back on me, because I'm a little busy right now.
Chairman.
And you're the co-chairman.
Touche.
Because that way we could know whether, if it's something that we pass and we have on the books and we can use it if
I
somebody's
think that's
really
all it is,
creating
is
a
having
nuisance.
something there. You have somebody, you're gonna get somebody that you're gonna go out and say, you should clean up, and they'll do it. And they'll do other people, and they'll say, I don't care, I'm not gonna do it, it's not my problem. And this gives you something to say, it is your problem, because you're making it somebody else's problem. That's really all I was looking at. It's not, you're not gonna be out there on patrol. It's just-
Right, but I'm just wondering too, if it, are they really getting any kind of cases? Do they even go to court?
Can the chairman become the enforcement officer?
Can what? The
Chairman become the enforcement officer?
You're duly deputized.
Or shoveled his pile of stuff.
I'll bring it to you so you can make sure I got the right stuff.
Plastic bag on your left hand. At the ready.
I hate to interrupt this with something serious, but most of your animal control ordinance is county. And, if this was done correctly, it would really you'd amend countywide the animal control ordinance to provide for this. It's not in there, but I checked to see if the county.
Would that be a better solution, is to throw it to them?
It is. I mean, that's how you regulate everything else about animals. And to me, it would be a better. Now, it would still come to your municipal court. You'd still have people locally that would enforce it. But that's where it ought to get.
Okay.
That's really the place to put it.
Get out of that.
Wait till you like to get out of that one.
I'll bring the package in.
All right, additional trash services.
Okay, this again is from some